And welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 52 of The Loud House, Snow Way Down. We begin this segment with Lincoln and the McBride family driving off to some remote area on a winter day. Lincoln explains to the audience that this is his first vacation with the McBride family, and he's looking forward to this particular vacation. On the way to the cabin that they're going to stay at for this vacation, they come across a very large ramp called the Ramp of Insanity. And when Lincoln and Clyde question if they can go on the Ramp of Insanity, Howard faints, and Harold explains that it's far too dangerous to ride. And as they arrive at the cabin, Lincoln sees this begins the start of various scenes where Lincoln notices just how overprotective Harold and Howard are. Whether it's snow blowing and using salt on the pathway to the cabin, polishing the cabin floor, making them wear so much winter clothing that they can barely walk around, putting mattresses on trees, leveling a hill so that it's not a hill anymore, and taking the hit from snowballs during a snowball fight. Oh, and hot chocolate that's not actually hot. And after all of these various scenes, Lincoln tells Clyde that he thinks that Harold and Howard, while definitely good people, are a bit overprotective. And Clyde concedes that Lincoln does have a point, but he also acknowledges that his dads have good intentions. But he does decide to talk to his dads about this, and while they're very hesitant to do so, Harold and Howard eventually concede to let go a little bit at Clyde's request. So later on, we see Lincoln and Clyde trying to go sledding again, but as the sled goes down a hill, and it's an actual hill this time, a grappling hook, I think you'd call it a grappling hook, comes out from the back of the sleigh to slow it down, if not outright stop it. And it turns out it was installed into the sled by Harold and Howard, and it turns out they were actually they were anticipating a parachute to come out instead when they hit the button. Clyde is once again, Clyde gets a lot more irritated that Harold and Howard didn't honor his request to let go a little bit. And later on, it's it's the next day, and Lincoln wakes up when he hears Harold and Howard, one of them is upset about something, and he finds that Clyde left a note for them. And according to this note, Clyde wants to try and ride the Ramp of Insanity to prove that he doesn't need them to overprotect him. And Lincoln, Howard's unconscious at this point, so Lincoln admits to Harold that he might have influenced Clyde's decision by mentioning how overprotective they were, but Harold actually takes it pretty well, all things considered. He just says it's better that they not tell Howard about this. And Lincoln tries to contact Clyde through walkie-talkie to talk him out of it, but Clyde left the walkie-talkie in his room, so Lincoln and the McBride dads go to the Ramp of Insanity to try and talk Clyde out of this. When they get to the ramp, it looks like Clyde is already at the top of the ramp, so they start to climb the ladder to get up there. And yeah, right before they go up, they're hesitant. They're not sure if it's safe, and they comment, "Oh, there would be a sign to let us know if it wasn't safe." And yep, snow falls down to reveal a sign that says it's not safe, essentially. But it looks like Clyde's up there, so they have no other choice in the matter. But when they get up there, it turns out it's not really Clyde. It was just a human-shaped, you need to be this tall to ride. Yeah, it's one of those signs of you need to be this tall to ride, but it's shaped like a person. So they mistook that sign as Clyde, and the ladder actually breaks apart, so they're trapped at the top of the ramp of insanity. And then we find out Clyde coming back to the cabin, and when he notices everyone is gone, he contacts them with the walkie-talkie, and Lincoln confirms that they're on the ramp of insanity because of what Clyde's note said. Clyde revealed that he actually realized how unwise it would be to ride the ramp, so he made it back without actually going on it. But given the current predicament that Lincoln and Harold and Howard are in, Clyde actually prepares to rescue them. He does try to call the ranger, but he just got the phone call, or yeah, he just got the answering machine essentially, so, or voicemail. And yeah, so Clyde has to rescue them himself, and yeah, he uses rope, grappling hook, whatever you want to call it, climbing up a tree, and he eventually makes it to the top of the ramp, by other means besides the broken ladder. And he says the only way they can get down is by riding on a sled. So yeah, Harold and Howard are hesitant, but they eventually see they have no other choice, so they all ride down the ramp, and they do survive. They make it just fine. And Clyde admits that it is because of that Harold and Howard made sure that he was well prepared for what was going to happen in life, while at the same time, Harold and Howard do admit that Clyde is able to take care of himself, and that they can let go a little bit. So the segment ends with Lincoln and Clyde riding down a hill on the sled, and no interferences this time, although Howard faints, and yeah, that's how we end the segment. So the season 2 finale, both segments of the season 2 finale, it's similar to episode 25 in the sense that both segments, they're unrelated stories, but they do share a similar theme in common with each other. And I suppose one could make the argument it's also like episode 25 in the sense that some might argue that these segments are sort of like inspired by a holiday, but not actually taking place on the holiday. Like, in the case of episode 25, some would argue that they were Halloween-styled segments without actually being on Halloween. For the case of episode 52, some might make the argument that they're Christmas-styled episodes without actually taking place on Christmas. At the very least, they are winter-themed segments, and it is a pretty cool bookends how season 2 started with a wintry episode, 11 Louds a Leaping, and it ends with 2 segments that share a winter theme to them. And, similar to 11 Louds a Leaping, Howard's hair was colored brown instead of his usual red hair. So, again, that was another, I guess, it would be an error that showed up again, but it was confusing to say the least for some people. But I digress. Otherwise, this particular segment did focus on the McBride family in particular, and Lincoln was the only Loud family member to appear in this segment, and well, this is actually maybe not the segment with the fewest cast members, but it's definitely one of the segments with the fewest cast members, only having 4 characters in it. So, and yeah, I thought this was a nice segment. It gave us more insight about the McBride family. And it did bring up a good point about how Harold and Howard do honestly care about Clyde's well being, and Lincoln's for that matter. But at the same time, Lincoln and Clyde did have a valid point, though, that they could be a bit overprotective, but they still meant well. And in the end, though, they did also recognize the good that Harold and Howard have done for Clyde. Like, Clyde realized that going on the ramp of insanity was too far, and he used what Harold and Howard taught him in order to rescue his dads and Lincoln at the end of the segment. So I thought that was a good I always thought that was a good thing, that they were able to strike that balance. They kind of recognized that Harold and Howard may have gone overboard, but also recognized that them caring about their son was valid, and they did impart some very important things to Clyde that he applied. So it worked out in the end for everyone. So that was a nice touch. And I did have to admit, at the end of the segment, near the end of the segment, when the McBride family were having a family hug and Lincoln was willing to let them have that moment, they actually wanted Lincoln to take part in the hug as well. I thought that was pretty heartwarming. It's like they're saying Lincoln's part of their family, so I thought that was a nice, heartwarming moment. And otherwise, yeah, that's about all I have to say for this segment. I thought it was a nice focus for the McBride family, and it was interesting to have another segment where Lincoln appeared, but none of his family members appeared, whether it was the Loud sisters or the Loud parents. So, I guess there is one more thing to bring up. I know some people were confused when Lincoln said this was his first vacation with the McBride family, because some would consider Roughing It to be the first one. Though others point out maybe this happens chronologically first, or maybe Lincoln didn't really count the event from Roughing It because of how Lincoln and Clyde ended up being kind of separated from the McBride Dads for a significant amount of time when they were trapped in the wilderness. So I guess that's up to fan and viewer interpretation to decide for themselves. But there you go, yeah. This was a nice McBride family focus segment. And I did like the point how they recognized Harold and Howard going a little overboard, but still showing them as being good intentioned and having successfully taught Clyde how to be prepared for what happens in life. So there we go for the A segment. As to be expected, we'll be discussing the B segment next. Take care, and until next time.